Happy Wednesday, UnWoke Nation, and I'd like to welcome you to episode 160 of The UnWoke Show, where free speech is welcome, all subjects are on the table, and your boys Rich and Tim bring you the latest and greatest for your entertainment, baby. I'm your host, Rich, and my co-host here. How you doing, Tim?
Oh, great, Rich, man. UnWoke Nation, glad to be back, guys. We did take a week off, but we are back, and we're going to jump right into it tonight with episode 160, Mental Health or Jihad, Why the Media is Scared to Label the Austin Shooting. Okay, so we're going back a little bit.
Huge story, though.
Yeah, a huge story. So, less than a day after the United States and Israel launched Operation Epic Fury against Iran, right?
Mm-hmm.
The chaos of the conflict may have found its way to an American city.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Sad moment.
Yeah. Austin, Texas, specifically 6th Street, a place known for music, nightlife, and people trying to forget the world for a few hours. Instead, the world showed up.
Yeah.
Okay. So on Sunday, it was March 1st, a 53-year-old Ndiaga Diagne, a naturalized U.S. citizen, originally from Senegal, opened fire inside Buford's backyard beer garden. So when the gunfire stopped, 2 people were dead, 14 others were wounded.
Yeah.
A nightlife district turned into a crime scene in seconds. And now investigators are trying to answer the question everyone is thinking about, but very few are willing to say out loud. Okay. And that question is why? Yeah, why indeed?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, guys, for on behalf of the UnWoke Show, I mean, condolences to all of us, to everybody down in Austin, where UnWoke Nation down there. I mean, obviously, that was a very tragic. It was a very busy Saturday.
Yeah, it was awful
that day. But yeah, Tim, you have to ask that question, like why? And it just makes you just kind of wonder. I mean, this person, it's almost like, Tim, like this guy, he was just waiting to be triggered or something like that. So because, one thing is we saw some of the pictures that came out later where from the surveillance cameras, I think he was wearing something that said like Allah on it or something on his shirt.
Yeah, according to early reports, the suspect was wearing a hoodie that read "Property of Allah."
That's it.
Underneath it, an Iranian flag T-shirt.
Okay, I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
Wow.
These details matter because clothing alone proves motive.
Yes.
But because symbolism often tells investigators where to start looking. Okay. The FBI has already said they are investigating a potential nexus to terrorism. Notice that statement.
Nexus to terrorism?
Potential nexus to terrorism.
That's a term we don't hear very often. Can you explain that to the audience?
You can't. I've never heard potential nexus.
That's what I'm saying. I don't even know where to start.
So to me, it sounds like government speak for, we're not ready to label it yet, but the possibility is real enough that we can't ignore it. And that brings us to the uncomfortable timing. The attack that happened less than a day after a major military strike involving Iran.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally, we woke up to that, Saturday morning. I know for myself, it's like I'd woke up early or I just happened to turn on my phone, and that was the first thing I saw, and it was like U.S. bombs were Iran. I was like, wait, what just happened? Because, I mean, we were all asleep. So, and I think what they had said to him, and I'm sure you're probably going to go through your timeline, but it's like, I mean, that happened like 2:30 in the morning or something like that?
So I saw it on Apple News. I mean, I'm not subscribed to that. I just happened to catch the blip about it.
Right.
2 dead, 14 injured in an Austin bar. And I just remember seeing the outline of the suspect
Because that was at Saturday night, you know. So forgive me, I was talking about like the bombing itself and all, but yeah, what you're talking about, the topic tonight, that happened later on tonight. But even so, that's just your typical night in Austin, you know, probably late.
Yeah, people are just going out. Hey, let's go to this popular place. Let's grab a few beers. Let's hang out, have a good time. Not thinking, well, I don't know any of us that think that I'm going to go out to the bar and the next thing I know, I'm going to be involved in a shooter, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Do we think this is a coincidence? Maybe.
Timing.
But history has a habit of reminding us that global conflicts rarely stay neatly contained overseas.
Yeah, and you know, the thing is that, man, you know, it kind of goes back even farther. Like when we think about 9/11 and we were hearing about a lot of the bombings and stuff that was happening in Beirut and, you know, some of the let me see, was the hotel terrorist attack where I think that was in Mumbai or something like that. So, and the thing is that, you know, we looked at that stuff and kind of went like, you know what, that's over there. That could never happen here. You know, it was just a story in a blip on the news for us that we would see at 7 p.m. at night. Right. But it wasn't until that day, you know, so who would think we're that, you know, on September 10th or 2011 or so that, you know, our lives would change, you know, so, or 2001, sorry. It's like, you know, 2001 that our lives would change or to think like, wow, that crap can actually come here.
Yeah. And so here's the reality that we don't like discussing. And as you were just mentioning, when the United States enters conflict abroad, those conflicts can have consequences at home. Not always. No. Not every time. But often enough that intelligence agencies plan for that.
And the thing is that I think now, because since of that incident where so with 9/11, it's like we've had to. It basically took the blinders off of us as a country to go like that. This stuff can truly happen, and you know, and I think it's like, yeah, I think, you know, our authorities like the FBI and the CIA, you know, they have to be prepared for this stuff. And also because, you know, it's not a joke anymore, Tim, that, you know, we're hearing, you know, people sort of saying, you know, or like you've been hearing recently in these last couple of days where people are talking about, you know, you've started hearing more of the term sleeper cell.
Yeah, and, we've heard, that has definitely been mentioned in the past for sure. Right.
You know, so, and it's like, you know, but the thing is that it's starting to become like even a more unfortunate common term. And also, and I'm sure that the FBI, and I know it's being led by Kash Patel and stuff like that, or so whoever's running the FBI or the CIA, you know, be able to look into this like, you know, are you taking the proper steps to make sure that people are being protected? We just had an incident just 2 days ago about two people who set off some type of bomb, I guess, during a protest. I guess so. It was initially a protest for outside the home of recently elected New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani.
Yeah, Mamdani. Yep.
And I guess they said that these two guys, from what I understand from the research we had done earlier, is that they had created some type of bomb, which according to what I had heard in a report from an explosive specialist in the military, he basically said the ingredients was considered very cheap to make, and also, but it's like the go-to cocktail. And they were able to try to ignite that amongst the people. Neither one of the suspects, from what they have found, do not know each other. Right. Under no circumstance. And so now it's more of a concern of like, you know, what do Americans do? What is our authorities like the FBI doing to protect American citizens at this time?
So you're touching on something that is mentioned, but is not mentioned. And that's radicalization networks.
Yes.
Ideological propaganda, lone actor responses, copycat violence.
Yes.
In the modern era, global conflicts travel through social media, messaging apps, and ideological echo chambers faster than any army ever could. And I think the one big example of this that stands out was the Boston bombing.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And, like I said, I happened to have a friend that day that was actually running in there. And also, thank God I was able to get a hold of his daughter.
Right.
And she was able to contact him and found out, I think he was probably like on the last mile marker or something like that. So he saw the explosion go off from a distance from the finish line. And I knew he was running in it. And also, but yeah, that's just a prime example. Or even, you're talking about the radicalism. What is that? It's what's that? What's the base down in Fort Worth?
Oh,
the guy.
there was a shooting.
The shooting. I think it was during like one of the military soldiers' graduations or something like that, and he was able to get weapons out of the armory.
Yeah, I'd have to dig that story back up. But it speaks to the radicalization because it came out during the Boston bombing trial that the older brother had radicalized
the younger one, I think.
The younger one.
Yeah.
And, your point to homemade bombs, those were pressure cookers.
Yeah. You know what? I remember that.
That were used.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's really, really crazy. It's crazy to see, people being that radicalized to want to do that type of stuff. And the thing is, like, no, of course, in this particular case, like I said, in Austin, where this guy is, I don't know if Tim, did they find out, is he an illegal person here, or is he an actual registered citizen?
Naturalized citizen.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, he's dead.
Yeah. So I think he shot himself.
No, cops took him out.
Oh, cop. Okay. Got it.
And it was I read even further up that, because Austin is a blue area.
Yeah, it's probably it's known for being very, very blue.
And their district attorney passed a procedure that every Austin police officer involved shooting goes before a grand jury.
Wait, why?
Yeah.
Why?
So we've had a lot of issues with cops and violence. George Floyd.
Right.
The events that took place in Memphis.
Yes.
ICE in Minnesota.
Right.
Okay. Where law enforcement has gone just a little too far.
I have a thought for this. I want to let you finish out what you're thinking.
So now keep in mind, this is a blue area.
Yep.
And when we say blue, we're referring to the left.
About as Smurf blue as it comes.
Exactly. And as such, they have a process, like I said, where every police involved shooting goes to a grand jury. Now, keep in mind, these officers don't have a say in that grand jury process. They don't have representation during that grand jury process.
Okay, that's bullshit right there, man. That says right there. So let me get this straight. So if I'm understanding this now, if we can repaint the scene based on what we had learned from the report. The suspect drove in his pickup truck or whatever it was, basically parking his truck next to the backyard bar. All right. He rolled down his passenger window.
Right.
And started firing at people who were outside sitting outside the bar.
Correct.
Before he got out of his car and went in and started shooting people, which is when the 14 people were wounded and everything like that. So now we had police, and shout out to our brave, to the brave men of the Austin Police Department. Yes, thank you guys, for your quick response, as much as you can do to get there
and handling the situation.
Right, exactly. So now what it is that they have a district attorney that now has got these guys out there going like, okay, if I shoot this person who's already murdering people, now I'm nervous about possibly being looked at that I did something wrong. You know what it reminds me of? Do you remember the one case that happened? I think it was in Indianapolis. and I think it was like at a mall. And I think there was a guy who came in.
You're talking about the Greenwood Mall shooting?
Yes, and there was a guy walked in. Yeah, he came in there, and I think he started shooting some. And I guess the guy who's considered the hero, where it turns out he had his gun on him.
Yeah, he was. So the gist is the shooter came out of the bathroom in the food court area.
Gotcha.
The bathroom leads into it was a giant open food court area.
Yeah.
You've got a trained individual who has his firearm on his hip. He was there with I think it was his girlfriend or wife or whoever. Had her get down, and he fired from across the food court and took out the gunman.
Right.
Okay. Now I think at the end of the day, he was. I don't want to say exonerated because that's not the right. After the investigation took place and stuff, they found that he was within his lawful rights and everything to do that. You know, the story isn't so much about the left in Austin and how they deal with police shootings. Although your statement about being afraid to do anything, cops down there do feel that way.
Yeah. But you see, the thing is that, they're already taking a chance every single day of putting on, their stuff to protect themselves, their Kevlar every single day. So how many times we've heard some a wife of a police officer sat there and says that, she's sitting at home and she said she literally is tense until she hears him taking his Kevlar off when he comes through the house. And it's like, so now we have policemen who are now afraid or potentially taking out a suspect and in that particular case, the one in Indianapolis, just like it was right here, we're going to have our cops thinking like a second can kill two other people.
Yeah.
You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
And it's like, so now what you're trying to tell me is that they got a grand jury and they can't even represent themselves. What the hell happened to right of due process? Being able to it's like, what goes?
I don't know what goes on. And
how is Governor Abbott even allowing this to happen?
That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe that's a future episode. UnWoke Nation guys, we'd love to get your feedback on that piece. Should we do a story on our fellow boys in blue, and are they afraid to act because of potential repercussions?
Right.
Okay. But circling back to this, the real question is whether this incident represents an isolated act or the first ripple of something larger.
And I think that's a great question, man. It's like, so, I mean, we're seeing this initial situation.
Right.
And so now, and I think you had mentioned earlier where it's about, possible copycats and stuff like that. I mean, that's kind of the thing that people are afraid of, especially when you're in the large urban areas. And just like Austin, you're thinking of a lot of these areas that tend to have supposedly gun control laws and all this other stuff like the city of Chicago and all those other ones that say, well, you can't have this and all, but yet they have the largest homicides in the United States. But anyway, and it's like, it makes people nervous. Like, do I go out and do like that or where? And that's not how things should be, Tim.
So think about this, Rich. Anybody that has been paying attention to the coverage, you're going to notice one thing. They're talking about the shooting itself. The victims, the location, right? That's all important stuff. But the broader question about geopolitical consequences, okay? That part's getting avoided or even overlooked. Because once you start asking that question, things get complicated. And I think you would agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think people like talking about terrorism, ideology, immigration, but you have to.
You have to.
You have to talk about foreign policy. You have to talk about retaliation and domestic security all in the same conversation.
Yeah.
Some of the terms I just listed speak to the MAGA base. Okay? And what's sad is this conversation makes people uncomfortable.
I mean, it does. And as you mentioned, people who are part of the, as they like to say, the MAGA base, where it's like, national safety, local national
Right.
safety are very, very important things. Where so I think it was very important to where going into now 2 years ago, it's like people say, hey, you know what? I want to be out with my wife and 2 kids and just having a nice night, or not knowing, hoping that I don't have to run into some guy trying to assault me. And if he does assault me and I defend myself, I might go to jail.
Right. So we've presented some difficult questions.
Mhm.
People don't want to talk about them. That doesn't mean they disappear.
Right.
Okay. Unfortunately,
you don't act like an ostrich or with his head in the sand.
Right. Unfortunately, I think it delays a crucial moment to have a very important conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. So where do we stand right now? Investigators are still gathering information. I don't think we know the full motive yet. I haven't come across anything that says that there was a manifesto or any sort of letter left behind versus other stories that we've had covered in the past. The one that comes to mind is the Tennessee school shooting.
Oh, that was the one in Memphis where with the suspect was a trans former student or something like that.
Yeah, the Christian school.
By the cop. Okay, yeah.
We don't know whether this was coordinated, ideological, or the act of a lone individual who attached or found meaning in global events.
I'd like to know in this investigation continued on where is there any type of manifest or anything like that? It seems to be a very common thing when people do that stuff. So if you remember when we did a couple episodes back where about the guy who had the video who was writing stuff on the magazines and all the bullets and stuff like that. And so I definitely would like to see, where is this guy coming from?
I completely agree with you. But the timing guarantees that the question will hang over this story. And that's true. We know tensions in Iran have already escalated.
Yes.
We know there will be more incidents to come.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying those incidents are going to be happening here, but we've already seen rhetoric from Iranian leaders about taking out President Trump.
Yeah.
Those statements have been made.
Yes, they have been.
Okay.
That was practically on day 2?
Yeah. It's unfortunate that this is happening.
Yeah.
But this, is this the first sign that a conflict thousands of miles away has started casting a shadow here at home? And that's a reality that we as a country have to start thinking about.
Yeah.
UnWoke Nation, we'd love to get your feedback on this story, guys. You can reach us at feedback@unwoketheshow.com. Again, that is feedback@unwoketheshow.com. Rich, a pleasure as always. And remember, guys, stay unwoke.
See you next time.